morning and welcome to our Wednesday reflection. This week I thought it would be interesting to spend some time looking at the passage chosen from 1 Samuel. I listened to a commentary this past week that gave some great background that I personally found quite helpful. It talked about how after Israel had been rescued from Egypt, they made a covenant with God at Mount Sinai. Then they eventually came into the promised land. There, Israel was supposed to be faithful to God and obey all the covenant commands. Before the book of Samuel, Judges showed how the people had failed at that task miserably. It was a period, of moral chaos, and it showed Israel's need for wise, faithful leaders. The book of Samuel provides an answer to that need. The book of Samuel focuses on three main characters. The prophet Samuel, where the book gets its name, then is King Saul, and finally King David. All three of them transition the people from a group of tribes into a unified kingdom ruled by King David in Jerusalem. There is a fascinating design throughout Samuel that weaves these three characters together. In the first part of the story about the rise and fall of Samuel, during this part of the book, we hear about Hannah and how she was not able to have a child. And she makes a bargain with God if she is given one. And so we have the birth of Samuel. That is the Samuel we hear about in the reading this morning. Samuel has ended up in the temple because of his mother's bargain with God to be taught by the priest Eli. And this is where the call story begins. I don't know about you, but when my cell phone rings, I have two choices. I can either tap answer and speak to the person calling, or I can choose to ignore it and let it go to voicemail. If I'm in a meeting or otherwise engaged, I sometimes hit ignore and then check the messages later. I was reminded of this when I looked at both of the stories that I'll share this week, this one now from Samuel and the other one on Sunday from the Gospel of John. This one about the boy Samuel is so intriguing, to say the least. Here I want to share with you the reading from the New International Version of the Bible, 1 Samuel chapter 3, verses 1 to 10. The boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. In those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. One night, Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could barely see, was lying down in his usual place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the house of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. Samuel answered, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" But Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." So he went and lay down. Again the Lord called, "Samuel." And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" "My son," Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. A third time the Lord called, "Samuel." And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. The Lord came and stood there, calling as at the other times, "Samuel, Samuel." Then Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." Samuel was young, living away from home and the familiar. A student may be feeling lonely or anxious, possibly bewildered by the environment he was in. Certainly he wasn't used to listening for the voice of God. It doesn't seem as though our writer would have us believe that Samuel was intentionally ignoring the call, only that his lack of experience kept him from recognizing it when it came to him. It took Eli's wisdom and time to convince them both that something was at work. You know, it makes me wonder when I've missed something important. Not a cell phone call, but something bigger, deeper. When I have chosen to ignore instead of answer. When I should have done something but have been inactive. I believe the voice is all around us. In news stories we hear every day, it might be a story about people who have inadequate health care. In a phone call from a friend or relative that signals a need. In a conversation about a group of people who are treated unfairly. We can't answer every need with an all-out response. There isn't enough time or energy. But some needs will call out to us more than others because of each one of us has different receptors. Eli's wisdom was to keep listening with an open heart and mind and see what happens. The question I leave you with this week is, what will be our response when God calls? I leave you to ponder that. Amen. Have a great week.